one evening, Elanor finds herself out and she finds herself at a bar and she sees this amazing man, and she feels like this man is the man of my dreams. This man is going to be my man. She disappears. She goes somewhere. Kevin's like, what? Right? Dana disappears and she lands up in 1815. And she lands up at the banks of this lake, right? And she goes upstairs to the attic, and first things first, Millie recognizes that the door only locks from the outside. It doesn't lock from the inside. So she cannot, for privacy's sake, lock her door when she goes to bed at night. Did I cry? Yes. Did I learn a lot about the Korean culture, especially how it is towards women? Absolutely. Did I love it? I did. And he does some things. Okay, let me tell you, it's just war is essentially waged on the gold. Hey everybody, hey bookers, welcome back to another video. It is me, it is I'm going to try and get this video out at least in the first week or two of January. I know it's going to be a little bit late, but good sis needed to take a break, hey? I think we all needed to take a break at this point. But was this December ring though?
Wabafana man. What?
I don't know, but chances are you're going to see this video in the new year. Welcome. It's another video. It is Katleho. Thank you so much for being here. As always, thank you so much for choosing me over and over and over again. Thank you for continuously choosing to be on the channel, continuously choosing to support. Please make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. There's a lot of bookish content on this video, whether it comes in the form of bookish videos or if I am sharing with you in a vlog or something like that what I am currently reading. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to be sharing with you my top 10 favorite books of 2023. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to share with you my favorite books of 2023. Let me get them. So I'm going to be sharing some of my favorite 10 books of 2023. These are not in any order, shape, or form. I'm not going to count down from 10 to my favorite one. I can't do that. So the first book that I absolutely loved in 2023 is Elanor Oliphant is Completely Fine. Yo! This book, I think, really spoke to me and somebody who naturally just lives a quiet life, somebody who is a little bit of an introvert. It really spoke to me. I gave this book a 5 out of 5 stars. Absolutely loved it so much. And I highly recommend that if you're trying to get into reading, because it is also very easy to read, that you definitely pick up this book. So in this book, we're following Elanor Oliphant, who works for like a publishing house or something like that. And she goes to work every day. She's got a very mundane routine, right? She just does her thing every single day, gets up at a certain time, gets a certain bus to work, gets to work, does her thing, comes home, drops into like the store before she gets home, and she goes home, she makes her dinner, and she goes to bed, watches a bit of TV, goes to bed every single day without fail, until maybe if it's like a Friday or something like that, she will then pick up a drink. She'll pick up her favorite 2 bottles of vodka, and then she'll go home and pretty much have a quiet weekend. Now, to her colleagues, Elanor is pretty much boring. Okay, nothing about her, like she's boring, they can't quite figure her out. They talk about her at work, and she's very well aware that they talk about her. She doesn't care. The thing about Elanor is that she's incredibly smart. She knows French, she does a little bit of French, you know, she says some French things in there, and she's extremely smart. Now, Elanor has a very tumultuous relationship with her mother in this book. Her mother calls her from a certain place once a week, and she always wants, her mom is a little bit of like a narcissist, and she always wants to know what's going on in Eleanor's life, and no, Elanor, don't do this, always just talking down to her daughter, and this and that and the other. But the story follows one evening, Elanor finds herself out and she finds herself at a bar, and she sees this amazing man, amazing man, and she feels like this man is the man of my dreams. This man is going to be my man, and I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that he becomes just that. And she does everything. She alters her look. She goes and she gets different clothes. She puts on a little bit of makeup. She cuts her hair. She does all these wonderful things so that she can get the attention of this man. And she's very much old school, so things like laptops and technology and Twitter and all of that, she signs on to these social platforms so that she can track this man, find out where he is, where he lives, all of that, because he is going to become my man. Does that sound stalkerish? Absolutely, it does. But in the meantime, while she's doing all of these things, she gets quite acquainted with one of her colleagues, who there's certain things about him that she really just doesn't like, but this guy continuously wants to be around her, continuously inviting her to certain places and all of that, kind of develop a relationship from there going forward. So you follow this quiet life of Elanor that's got a little bit of excitement here and there, but you follow her as you examine, right? It's a really great character description of her life. It's very descriptive in terms of the atmosphere. It's really great in that you see the different relationship dynamics, her story, her history, her past. There is a little bit of trigger warnings here that I would love for you to just check out, content warnings about the book. But outside of that, it's impeccably written. This is by Gail Honeyman, and beautiful. I'm doing them in the order in which I've written them down. All right, the next book is called Butter Honey Pig Bread. That's a lot. It's a lot, and let me try and find the author of this here book. This is, and I'm going to put it here because I listened to it on audio, this is Butter Honey Pig Bread by Francisca Ekuyasi. I'd like to say, I'm sorry if I butchered that, but this is a fantastic, oh my goodness, this is African literature. It is written so well. It's a drama story where we follow three women, right? We follow Kamberinachi, we follow her two twin daughters who are Kaende and Teye. And we follow their lives, right? We follow her Kamberinachi raising her daughters. We follow the different dynamics, right? So in this book, we look at subjects like motherhood. We look at subjects like relationship between mother and her daughters. We look at the relationship between the two sisters. There's a lot of LGBTQIA plus representation in this book, which is really great as well. But essentially, we follow Kamberinachi, and she feels and believes herself to be an Obanje, right? And Obanje is like a spiritual or mythical kind of creature, person, in Nigerian folklore. I think you should just research it. It's actually quite interesting. And she believes that she is an Obanje, but she is here in human form and she's raising her daughters. But in that time, a lot of things happen within the relationship that she has with her daughters. Things happen that actually split them apart as they grow older. One daughter is over here in Canada. The one daughter is in another part of the world, and the mother is in Nigeria. And eventually, at some point while they're older, the two daughters have to come back to Nigeria and address some of the things that have happened, especially in the past, that kind of split them up together. Again, Again, a lot of content warnings with this particular book. There are trigger warnings. There's subjects of mental health that are discussed in here. There's subjects of essay, which I will write here, that are also discussed in here. So it's really a study of the relationship that they have together. It's a study of motherhood. It's a study of developing your identity and your sexuality, hence why the LGBTQIA plus comes in here as well. And it's a really great book, especially if you love to read about relationships between mothers and their daughters, or relationships between sisters. Something happens between the two sisters. Something happens to one of the sisters as they are growing up, and the other sister witnesses it but says nothing. And of course, this pulls them apart, and you watch the story develop as they come apart, and then they come back together again when they are older in Lagos in Nigeria, and now they have to address all of those things. They have to unearth all of the things that have happened to their parents, to them growing up, and it is a beautiful, beautiful story. I absolutely loved Pig Honey Butter Bread. Honey Pig Butter Bread. Butter Honey Pig Bread. I absolutely loved this book, and I highly recommend that you pick it up or you listen to it on audio. You can listen to it on Everend, which is previously known as Scribd. Beautiful, beautiful book. Kindred. The next book is Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. Now, this is a vintage classic. It is now known as a classic novel, and this was amazing. Amazing for the way that Octavia Butler wrote in her time. This book is from the 1960s, 70s, and how she wrote about teleporting was crazy at this time, like in the 60s, 70s, crazy. So in this one, we follow Dana in 1976, and she is a Black American woman who has now just married her husband Kevin, who is white, right? So they've just moved into their house. They're so excited. They're unpacking the house. They're unpacking things in their bedroom, their bathroom, all of this. They're having a great time. They're newlywed, so excited about life, right? So excited. Now, one time Dana is in the wardrobe, right? She's in the wardrobe. She's just walked into her walk-in closet, right? And she's packing things away. Her husband Kevin is in the bedroom, but he's got full view of her. He can see her. And then chigga, boom, Dana disappears. Dana just goes, baby girl. She goes. She disappears. She goes somewhere. Kevin's like, what? Right? Dana disappears, and she lands up in 1815. And she lands up at the banks of this lake, right? She's like, what in the world? She's showing up there in her jeans and everything. And as she's just trying to suss out the environment and what's happening around her, she sees this young, small, white boy in the lake, in the middle of the lake, and he's drowning. He is drowning. He is like flickering hands all over the place. And she's like, what in the world? She goes in, she jumps in, she saves him, she brings him back to the shore, to the banks, right, of the lake. Now, as she does that, she's trying to revive him, make sure that he's fine. These white people, the parents of this boy, Rufus, come into, oh, get away from him. She doesn't realize that she has popped back into 1815. And you realize at this time, Black people, white people, right? They don't like white people. So obviously white people don't like Black people. So obviously with the slavery and all of that. So obviously they're like, get away from my son, this, that, and the other. And then, so the book centers around Dana coming back in and out. She literally teleports back in and out, in and out. And every single time she teleports to back in time, and every single time she goes back is a time where Rufus, the very same kid, is in a time where he's about to die. Something is happening and he's about to die, and then Dana gets teleported back to him so that she could save him. So she eventually gets, she goes back to Kevin. Kevin is like, where you been? And then she's like, I don't know, I was 1815, I don't know. And then Kevin's like, nah, you only been gone for like 2 minutes. But every single time she goes back. Rufus is older, things are happening back there. And then she realizes that she has a lineage. She has a heritage. She is related. Rufus is an ancestor of hers. So she has to keep him alive so that she can keep her ancestry going, so that she can be alive. You know what I'm saying? It's the most amazing story. It is written so well. But every single time she goes back for longer and longer. And it's so crazy because, yes, there are content warnings about slavery here. There are content warnings about lashings, beatings, all of that. There's really, really difficult scenes in this book, or not even scenes, but parts of this book are really, really hard to read, but it is fantastic. It is written so well. I absolutely loved it. Really short. You can literally knock it out in a day or two, and I loved it. The next one is Housemade. Now, Housemade, as you probably know, if you've been following my content for a while, you'll know that Charity has my copy of the Housemade. Absolutely loved it, by Frida McFadden. Loved it so much. If you are a thriller lover, okay, if you are a thriller connoisseur like I am, pick up this book. Okay, in this book we follow Millie, down and out. And I feel like a lot of thriller books, they start out this way, right? A lot of them, they start out with a female character who's kind of down and out. She's living out of her car. She's trying to find jobs. It's really hard for her to find jobs because she's got a record, right, for something specific. So it's going to be a spoiler if I share that. So she's got a record. So she's trying to find a job. She's looking at the classifieds. She's going to look for jobs at like your McDonald's and the Jack in the Box and all of that. She's trying to find some kind of work because she is living out of her car and things are looking dire for Millie at this point. Then one day she sees an ad in the classifieds and she says, you know what, I'm going to try this. I'm not really qualified for this. But you know, it offers a salary, a really great salary, and it offers food and lodging. So why not? And the job is to be a housemaid / nanny, I suppose, for this really wealthy family, okay? For Nina and Andrew. I forget their surnames. Winchester, I think. And so she applies for the job. Little does she know she's going to be called back. She's like, I'm going to call back. Okay, she goes for the interview. The wife is the one who's interviewing her. She is amazing. Okay, this wife is just so amazing. She seems so excited to have Nina over. She's just like, not Nina. Nina is the wife. She's excited to have Millie over and starting her job. She's like, Millie, you can start anytime. So she says to Millie, look, let me show you. The house has 2 stories, right? And she says to Millie, look, you're going to be sleeping in the attic upstairs. Let me go show you. So the house is very pristine, very modern, very chic, beautiful. And she goes upstairs to the attic, and first things first, Millie recognizes that the door only locks from the outside. It doesn't lock from the inside. So she cannot, for privacy's sake, lock her door when she goes to bed at night. It only locks from the outside. And look, she's in no position to be dictating terms here. She needs this job. Okay, so she eventually is like, okay, there's some strange things happening in this family, whatever, but she takes the job. As she takes the job, she realizes strange things start to happen, right? Strange things are happening with the daughter. The daughter doesn't really like Millie. Strange things are happening around the house. The only one person who is really, really friendly to Millie is the husband. Extremely friendly. Maybe even over friendly. The wife, her attitude towards Millie starts changing a lot. Okay, she is mean now. Something is not right. There's 3 parts to the story, and 3 or 4, and each part you have a part from Millie, and then you have a part from Nina. That explains exactly why Nina is the way she is towards Millie. It's brilliant. It's got plots and twists. It's so atmospheric. It's so detailed in its explanation of what is happening and how things are, that it's fantastic. The plots and twists and turns, you are not going to see them coming. Even as a seasoned thriller reader. I think I saw 1 or 2 and then I was floored. After that, I didn't see nothing. I was like, what is happening? So good. Pick it up. The Housemade by Frida McFadden. So good. The next one is a memoir. This is the only memoir in this section because I did read another memoir. Jada Pinkett, anybody? Didn't like it. So anyway, that's not the point. It was okay. But the one memoir that I highly recommend that you do pick up is this one. Let me tell you, food galore. Okay, if you're somebody who loves Asian cuisine and you love food, please pick up this book. But if you are somebody who loves reading about someone's relationship with their mother or family dynamics or anything like that, please pick up this book. This is Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. Now, this is a memoir of Michelle Zauner's life, and more especially around the time her growing up, of course, but also around the time that her mother gets diagnosed with breast cancer. How it impacts the family, how it impacts the relationship that her mother has with Michelle, how it impacts the relationship that Michelle has with her father, how they all relate to one another, especially at this time when Michelle's mother falls sick and they need to start looking after her. It is brutal in the fact that it is so good, but at the same time, it will devastate you. If you want a book that's going to make you cry, but you also want a book that's going to make you hungry for cuisine, Asian food, Asian cuisine, please pick up this book. I absolutely loved it. And knowing that it's her life and her story. You know, there are certain books, I was listening to this on audio and I'm pretty sure I'm going to reread it. And when I do reread it, I'm going to read it like this with my eyes, because there are so many beautiful lines in this book. It's so good, especially if you want to read about the relationship between mother and daughter, how it grows and how it evolves over time. You can see in this book that they didn't have the best relationship, but something about food would always bring the family together, would always make her relationship with her and her mother stronger, and how food played an integral part of her story, her life story with her mother, with her family. Absolutely amazing. I want to read it again now. So good. The next one is When We Fell Apart. Again, this is one that I listened to on Everend on Scribd, and this is by Soon Wiley. This really lovely, so well written. I went around looking for this book and I haven't been able to find it. I might need to look online. I've went around everywhere looking for this book so that I could have a copy of it. That's how much I loved it. In this book, we follow two perspectives, two dual time spans, right, from two different people. We follow Eugene and we follow Min. And this is a great book if you want to study sort of like identity, coming of age, trying to find your place in the world, but also at the same time, if you want to understand a little bit about Korean culture, especially when it comes to women, what is expected of them, what they need to do, how they need to conduct themselves publicly, and also to their families, what they need to do for their families. It's tough. It's really hard to read certain parts of this book, especially for Eugene. So in essence, you follow Min and Eugene, and you follow the story from both their perspectives. And Min is a Korean American, and he grew up in the States, but then moves to Korea for a job opportunity. He gets an opportunity to work for one of the big tech firms in Korea, and he says, you know what, I'm actually going to go there because I want to find out a little bit more about myself, about my heritage, about my history, about my identity, try and find myself. And I feel like being in Korea, being around my people, being around my heritage, my history, my lineage might help me do that. So he goes to Korea. Right. And then we follow Eugene. Eugene is in Korea, and she grows up in this small town in Korea, and she really just doesn't mix and mingle with the people in that small town. She doesn't like her friends. She doesn't like her family life. She just feels like, I need to do really, really well so that I can go to the University of Seoul, right? So she says, I'm going to do really, really well. I'm going to go to one of the top universities in Seoul. And she does that. I don't know if it's the University of Seoul or a different one, but she does that. And while she's out there, she meets Min. And her and Min have a little relationship going, get to know each other a little bit, very private thing. And Eugene lives with two of her friends, right? She's got roommates, two of her friends. And then one day, Eugene is found unalived in her bedroom. So she is found dead in her bedroom, and this absolutely devastates Min. So now we are reading in two time spans, and we are seeing what happened from Eugene's perspective about the pressure that she's had about overachieving and having a certain life from her family, from her parents, and the pressure around her to constantly be a scholar of excellence and all of that. And you have the relationship that she had with Min, and you see that, and you see how that unfolds. And Min is absolutely devastated and wants to know what happened to Eugene. There is no way that Eugene is gone, and she passes away via suicide. And Min does not believe that this is it. Min is just like, there's no way. There's no way she could take her life. There is no absolute way. And you watch the perspective between the two of them, and it is just beautifully written, and you watch it unfold as to what happened leading up to those culminating moments before her death. And did I cry? Yes. Did I learn a lot about the Korean culture, especially how it is towards women? Absolutely. Did I love it? I did. The next one is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I'll put it here. I'll put the cover here because I can't seem to see it, find it. This was a suggestion by Charity. Let me tell you, thank goodness she suggested it to me because I'm trying to get into fantasy and sci-fi, okay? And she's brilliant at fantasy and sci-fi because it's all she ever reads, okay? So she got me, she was just like, you are going to love this. You're gonna love it. Just please give it a chance. So I listened and read with my eyes Pierce Brown's Red Rising. And this is part of a series of books. There's 4 of them. Charity, please comment down below. She will let you know. There's 4 or 5 of them. And the first one is Red Rising. Let me tell you, this follows the human race many years achieved ahead in life and time, but it follows different types of groups of people in the human race, right? You've got the reds, you've got the golds, you've got the blues, you've got the pinks, you've got the browns, you've got the different types of people, and they have different types of stature. The reds are seen as kind of the lowest of the stature, and they live inside Mars, if I'm not mistaken. They live inside of Mars, in the ground, underground, and everybody else lives above Mars, right? The ones that are seen as the better race of people. And so we follow Daryl, who is born into the Reds, and he's lived his life underground all the time. What the Reds do is basically mine for helium-6. I think they mine for helium-6 and then they bring it up. So the Reds, they bring it up to the surface so that the human race can be better and be more achieved or more accomplished. And they believe, as the Reds, that they are helping. They are the foreground runners, and they are helping the human race become what it is now, right? As they continuously move from planet to planet. Now, something then happens. Of course, Daryl loses his wife. At the beginning of this book, loses his wife. It is just terrible. It does not sit well with him. He's just absolutely just extremely devastated. And because of that, it forces him to do something. And it doesn't quite turn out the way that he thought it would. But then he realizes he loses his wife at the hands of the golds. And he realizes, oh, he's now mad. Oh, he's buku mad. He's mad at the golds. He's like, nah, screw this. No ways, right? So he tries to do something. It doesn't quite work out in his favor. And next thing you know, Daryl meets a certain group of people who are going to help him become a gold. So now he's a red, but they're going to help him become a gold, because the whole bigger picture of this thing is that they want to overthrow the golds, because the golds are horrible people. They're horrible. And then you watch Daryl and his life kind of like progress as he's working on becoming a gold, and the life of immortality and all of this crazy stuff that they become as golds, right? It's really hard to kill them and stuff. It's not immortality, but they're really strong and this and that, and they can heal quickly and all of this. Let me tell you, when I tell you he gets into this institute, he's with the golds and he meets friends and all of this, and he does some things. Okay, let me tell you, it's just war is essentially waged on the golds, all because of one man, because of Daryl. So great, fantastic. Such wonderful lines that come out of that book. I highly recommend that you pick that book up, especially if you're into sci-fi or fantasy, or want to delve into it. Highly recommend it. And then the next one is Tomorrow I Become a Woman. Oh, Lord. This is by Iwanose Odafen. And in this one, we follow Oju. We follow Oju, I think. I think they call her Oju, and we follow her husband Goji. And let me tell you, we follow their story where they meet, and Gozi is just, the husband's name is Gozi, sorry. Gozi is just amazing. He's handsome, he is well accomplished, he's learned, he works really hard and all of this, and she absolutely falls in love with him in university. Absolutely falls in love with him. He woos her, he loves on her. He's just like, listen, I'm gonna need you to be my wife, and she does become his wife. She gives him children, everything happens. We're watching, we're following along as they grow over certain amounts of years and times and things like this. But what she doesn't know is who her husband actually really is. This is really hard. There's a lot of content warnings here as well for different types of essay. There's a lot of content warnings for abuse. There's a lot of content warnings, mental health, all that kind of stuff. Very, very, very difficult reading this book, but it's fantastically written. It follows their story, their lives. It follows just motherhood. It follows the life of the friendships that Oju creates with her friends. It follows the relationship that she builds with her friends, especially in this time. Now, this book is really a great depiction of a patriarchal society where what men want is what happens. Okay, he treats her a certain way, and that's what that goes. The relationship that she has with her mother, where she tries to explain to her mother the life that she's currently living in her marriage, and her mother's just like, get it together. Get it together. You cannot, you have to. This is how men are. This. Like, it's so hard to read, but I feel like it is such a poignant depiction of a lot of households, especially in African society, where you are taught to be a gazelle, to hang out in there and hold on and all of that. But it's also a great depiction of female friendships, the friendships that she has with her friends, and a really great story of finding yourself and her identity and walking away from what does not serve her. This, fantastic. Just read it, bro. The last two books. This one is Hamnet. I spoke about Hamnet in the beginning of I started reading Hamnet in the beginning of 2023. So it's definitely, it hasn't showed itself on my YouTube channel in a while, but I did read it in 2023, and it will definitely, Maggie O'Farrell will definitely make her way into my top 10. And I did say that it would become part of my top 10. This is an amazing book where we follow Hamnet, who is a young boy who is born into a family where his father is known as his father, or the son of whoever or whatever. His father is never really named. And Hamnet is the young son of Agnes, and he's also a twin, Agnes, spelled Agnes but said as Agnes, and he's also a twin. So at the beginning of the story, Hamnet's twin falls ill, Judith. I think her name is Judith. She falls ill, and Hamnet is running around the town looking for his family. Nobody's at home, and he's looking around for his grandfather. He's looking around for his mother. Nobody's at home, and he's running around looking for somebody to help because his sister Judith has just taken ill. And in this book, we follow really just the quiet story of Agnes, Shakespeare's wife. He is never really named in this book. Hamlet's father is Shakespeare, but he's never really named in this book, and I think it's fantastically done because it takes away the story from the fact of it being about Shakespeare. We don't want it to be about Shakespeare, but we see it's also set in dual time spans, and we see how Agnes and Shakespeare met, and essentially this book is really a love story to Agnes. It's a love story to Shakespeare's wife, and it talks about how they met, how their love for each other developed, how it was difficult for Agnes, but Agnes also has really special powers, especially when it comes to herbs and botanics and healing people. But it also centers around Hamnet and this particular moment in time where Hamnet's sister takes ill, and something magical truly happens in this book. I cried about 3 or 4 times in this book, but I absolutely loved it. It's written, it's a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. It's written incredibly well, and I highly suggest you pick this one up. Finally, I thought we were going to do a book haul, but I realized this video is going to be too long, so I'm not going to do that. Finally, we've got Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This one, loved it. I rated it a 4 out of 5, I think, on Goodreads. I need to change that. It's definitely a 5 out of 5. Again, it's a nice book about, I think I like this little life. We follow Keiko, who is 36, and she works in one of Japan's convenience stores, right? Your 7-Elevens, the convenience stores that are pretty much open all the time, every single day, 24 hours a day. She works there and she loves her job. She loves what she does. She loves how she feels fulfilled in her job, how she feels like she's wanted and needed. This is a space where she needs to, you know, she's there, she's wanted, she's needed, all of this. Contrary to this, her friends and her family believe that she needs to get a better job. They just feel like she's been working at this job for years now. They just really think that she's doing this as a part-time thing. They want her to become somewhat of like a salary woman, right? She needs to get a corporate job and work in corporate and get a family. Again, about Asian standards, norms, what is expected of women in Asian situation, Asian settings, Asian countries. So this is what they expect of her. They want her to want more for herself. And she feels like her being the convenience store woman is more. That is what she loves. But eventually, you know, she succumbs to the pressure. This is a very, very small book. I knocked it out in a day. Eventually, she succumbs to the pressure and she strikes up a deal with one of her colleagues who she really doesn't like. And he really doesn't like her. But to kind of shut up the talks and prods and of her family members and her friends, she just says, you know what, fine. And something happens. I'm not going to say anything, but it's great. It's such a great character study of Keiko, of how you can just live a very simple and quiet life working as a convenience store woman and feel fulfilled. And also it talks about the really difficult, harsh realities that Asian women have to face in many different Asian countries, where they are faced with, you know, cultural standards and norms, and how they have to respond to that, how they have to change who they are and what they want for themselves for the sake of making the ones that are around them happy. And I absolutely loved it. I rated it a 4, but I'm moving it up right now to a 5. Highly recommend that you pick up these books. These are some of my favorite books for 2023. I'm not going to do the whole, the video is far too long as it is, but I really loved these books and I wanted to share them with you. Have you read any of these books? Are there certain books that you did read and that you would like me to try out in 2024? Please let me know down below, and I'll be looking forward to checking them out. Okay, I'm gonna go now. I'm a little bit tired. I've been talking for a while now. I'm a little bit tired, so I'm gonna go. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. As always, thank you so much for choosing me over and over again. This is it. I'm gone. I'll see you in the next video. Until then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other, and I'll see you really soon. Mwah. Sayonara.